just need to track forwards. This is the track forwards button. So place yourself on the first frame of the clip you want to track, hit track, and then Mocha is tracking the movement there, as you can see, pretty quickly. And this is running on an iMac. Okay, now, because she turns her head, the shape doesn't stay the same of the lips throughout the clip. So what we need to do is just add in a couple of keyframes. As you can see, the shape has turned yellow. The dots here have turned yellow, which means that there's already a keyframe on the first frame. And then we just go to the last frame and zoom in a bit. Reposition this for the lip shape at the end. And just clean that up a little bit. And then what you'll see is that with only 2 keyframes, okay, I just need to fix up this one at the start, which has gone off a bit. With only 2 keyframes, we've got this following the lip shape throughout the whole clip. So that just saved a lot of time over if you had to rotoscope this manually. And once you've got the shape isolated, then you can use all the tools over on the left, sorry, the right here, to change the colors. So we can boost saturation and red, and the shape softness here is the edge of the lips, so the edge of the shape. So we're just going to render that, which is very quick. And then play it back 1 second. And you can see the effect has been applied that quickly. So that saves you a lot of time over something you would usually have to go into another package to do. And I'll just pause here for a second and see if anyone wants to ask any more questions about that example. Ross, is there any questions?
Yeah, there's one comment and one question, Roger. Thanks for that great example, first of all. Someone did ask if you could sort of slow down your cursor movements because it's a little difficult to see your cursor. But
Okay.
Someone also asked about the specs of the iMac that you're running on, just to get an idea of the performance.
This is a recent iMac bought about 6 months ago. It's the 27-inch model.
Okay, and maybe afterwards we can just get the actual processor speeds and things like that. To back up a step for those who have joined us, this is a webinar featuring SliceX powered by Mocha, which is a masking plugin made by a company called CoreMelt. My name is Ross Shane. I'm with Imagineer Systems. We're the guys who make Mocha, the tracking software. And Roger Bolton, who's the presenter here today, is the founder, director. What's your title, Roger?
Both of those.
The founder, director, head visual effects guy at CoreMelt. So why don't we go on to another example?
Yeah, okay. One thing to mention before we move on. So what you might have noticed here, when you render the clip, the shape has disappeared. And that's so you can see the results better. And if you want to edit it again, you hit this button here that's popped up in the on-screen controls. And then the shape comes back, so you can keep editing it again. And also, this palette here, which is controlling our keyframes, now that we've set keyframes there, you can use these arrows forward and back to go to the keyframes you've set to edit them. And if we go in between, you'll see that the shape is blue here, which means there's no keyframe set. So there's yellow when there's a keyframe set on the dots. Blue means there's no keyframes, and these buttons go forward and back. You can delete keyframes using the icon here, or delete all keyframes using the icon on the right. We'll come back to some examples that use keyframing as well as tracking.
Roger, let's just pause for 1 second and kind of catch up to a couple more questions. Now, after you've drawn one of these shape masks, can you go ahead and add, is there a way to insert more points into onto the shape?
Yes, there is. Okay, I'll just zoom in and show you that. Okay, so let's just go down. All you need to do is click in between anywhere. It should be. It's making a liar of me. But that should be adding some more points. Let me just double check this. Okay, there you
There you
go.
go. Yeah.
I just had to be more precise in my clicking. So just clicking in between anywhere will add a point. And there's also a context menu. If you hold down Option and click, that you can delete points, or you can change the interpolation between the points as
Okay,
well.
great. And then if you wanted to create multiple masks at one time, I assume you do that with multiple instances of the effect. Is this true, or?
Correct. There is, because this is designed for Final Cut Pro 10 and there's only so much we can do in the user interface, we kept it to one mask per plugin. So if you want more than one mask, you just drop in another copy of the mask onto the same plugin. And again, I've got some examples showing you what you can do using that coming up later on.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're pretty much caught up with the questions, and we'll catch up with any more as they come in.
Okay, great. So next example we're going to go on to is, let's just go back to full size here. And what we're going to do is blur out that sign on the edge of screen. And I'll zoom out further so that we've got some room to draw here with our mask. And this time we're going to use the plugin called Blur Shape Mask, which is over here. And I'm just going to select our clip and drop the plugin onto our clip in the timeline. Now that's just come up with a default shape. And as soon as you click on one of these shapes on the left, that will create a new shape. And we'll just go in. And you see what I'm doing, the reason why I zoomed out is so that I could approximate the shape of the sign off the edge of the screen. And Mocha can handle this, tracking the object going off screen and coming back on again. So again, here's my track forward button on this tool palette here. Now, one thing to notice that these can all be dragged around the screen if you're in the way. Anywhere you can hide and show the mask editor tools. And this is track forward. So let's go track that example. And you'll see that that wasn't phased at all by the fact that it's almost completely going off screen. It's tracked the motion perfectly. So just go ahead and render that and then play the example. I'll just go back to full screen, sorry. So that's very useful, being able to draw points off screen. I'll just pause there for any more questions.
Yes, let me just, yeah, I'm here, Roger. I just wanted to, sorry, I just need to unmute myself. A couple more questions that we can ask you, Roger, is one is, well, I can answer this one, which is, do we need to purchase SliceX and Mocha? And that answer is no. SliceX, powered by Mocha, is a standalone plugin that uses the Mocha tracking algorithm internally. And SliceX is also available without the Mocha tracking option. And I guess for some of the customers who used to have it, what's the upgrade price now, Roger?
The upgrade price is $79 for people that bought the original SliceX. And at the end, I'll go to the CoreMelt website and show you where the products are.
Okay, great.
It's $99 for the full package SliceX with mocha tracking.
Powered with the mocha tracker. Someone asks, does it auto key when you make adjustments? And I suppose the answer is yes, right?
Yes, it does. Whenever you drag a point, well, you can turn on and off keyframing. That's this button right here is to turn on and off keyframing. So if you have keyframing turned on, whenever you move a point, you'll see the shape turns yellow, and it's set a shape keyframe at that time.
Okay, perfect. And then if you wanted to basically exclude a mask, I think a couple of people have asked sort of the same question in different ways, which would basically mean multiple shapes. You would have to basically create a new shape for each new instance of the plugin for different shapes on one shot.
Do you mean cutting a hole in a mask? Is that what you mean?
Well, okay, there's two things.
Subtracting one from another?
Yeah, can you subtract a mask within the plugin?
Not within the plugin. You use two plugins to do that, and
Yep.
I'll show you. I've got a specific example showing that coming up.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, great. Should I move on to the next example?
Okay, a couple of people have asked. This is something that we have talked about what, if there's ways to use this tracking data for areas other than masking. And I don't know if you want to mention that now, or we can talk about what's coming in the future, maybe later on in the webinar.
Yeah, well, let's just make clear that SliceX, the SliceX powered by Mocha products, only does masking, tracking of masks, and all the things you can do using masking. So at the moment, that's what it does. And inserting graphics, we're looking at making that a separate product.
Okay, perfect. And someone just asks you, just can you really quickly just toggle on and off the where you display the keyframe, and I suppose it's that button that looks like a key to turn off the auto keyframing. Yeah.
This button right here, which you'll notice if you put the cursor over it, it comes up with a little hint telling you enable disable keyframing for points.
Okay, perfect.
And the same here, you can turn on and off the Mocha tracking by clicking on the Mocha icon here. And you'll see that the tool palette associated with tracking disappears, and when you turn this one off, the tool palette associated with keyframing disappears.
Okay, and Roger, another last question before you get to your next example. Someone wanted to know if you've started you've started a mask with a particular filter, like with a blur shape, and then you actually want to use the same mask for a color correction shape. Is there currently a way to do this in SliceX?
That's a good question, and
that might be a feature request.
Yeah, you kind of can, depending on how you set it up, but you can't copy masks from one plugin to another at the moment. You would have to redraw the mask if you wanted to change to a different plugin. However, if you use the shape mask layer and duplicate the layer, you can do all kinds of things with it, and we'll show you that later on. So that's kind of the generic, useful mask in which you can do anything with. So we'll get back to that one.
Right. So you don't have to use SliceX just for with the own pre-built fills, but you could actually use it just as a masker for any custom fill.
You can use it with any built-in effect, with the built-in color tools, or with third-party plugins, and that's the example I'm coming to just a bit down the line.
Okay, perfect. Well, why don't we move on then to your next example, and I'll keep fielding questions via text.
Sure. Okay, so in this example, we're going to add depth of field to the foreground. And again, I'm going to just zoom out and first of all check what the clip movement does. This is a good idea to always have a look at what your movement is before you start tracking. Okay, so we've got this pan across the walls of Osaka Castle in Japan, and we're going to add depth of field to the foreground. So I'm going to go to in this case, the depth of field shape mask plugin, and add that to my timeline, to the Osaka Castle clip. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this case is zoom out even more and draw a big shape here going across approximating the same distance from the camera and put some points for the bits that come in later. And then I'm going to zoom back a bit and start tracking. Now, one thing to notice is that the larger area you track, the slower mocha gets, because mocha is a planar tracker. It's not tracking points, it's actually tracking the features that it finds in the area within the shape. So because we've drawn a bigger shape, the tracking is slower here. However, there is a trick you can do where you can draw a small shape that has the right movement and track, and then you can delete the shape and draw a larger one, and it will keep the same track movement. So we'll come back to that example as well. This is almost finished tracking now. Just wait a few more seconds. And I've totally misjudged the position of that corner, so I'll fix that as soon as it's finished tracking. Okay, so in this case, I want to turn off keyframing because I want to just have one shape for the whole movement. So I'll turn off keyframing and then go to the end and drag my points out. Okay, so we want to approximate the distance from camera here. And at the moment I've got this set the wrong way. I want to invert my shape so that the foreground is going out of focus. And when I zoom in a bit, you can see that the difference between the depth of field plugin and the blur plugin is that it's not just a constant blur, it's going from in focus to out of focus across this barrier, and you can adjust that with the softness parameter here. So we can have a very sharp one or a very soft transition, and we can adjust the amount of depth of field. Like that's basically adjusting the maximum amount of this parameter. And you can also adjust the horizontal and vertical separately. So let's just go back. Fit that and render it and then play it. And of course, you can use this for doing all kinds of tilt shift examples as well to make it something look like a miniature if you have the right kind of footage. 1 second, we'll just wait for that to finish rendering and then play back. Okay, I'll just play that again. And have we got any questions on that example? Or any other questions in general?
Let's see, I think we're kind of caught up on some of the questions. Again, some people are asking about tracking motion, which is something that you can do in the standalone Mocha, but not in SliceX, which is primarily a masking plugin right now. Someone asked, is there a full version of Mocha for Final Cut X? And the answer is no. There's two versions of Mocha. There's Mocha AE and there's Mocha Pro. Mocha AE supports Final Cut Pro version 7 and Apple Motion, but the only product that currently supports Final Cut X is SliceX.
Yep.
And let's see here. Do you need to recalculate a whole clip just by changing some points? And I guess the answer is no to that. The tracking data is kind of separated from the actual keyframe data. So if you've done your track and then you want to manually edit your mask, that's no problem. You don't have to retrack. So there's
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah, in fact, that's very useful for being able to, as I mentioned, you can track a small shape, which is faster, and then you can change it to be in the larger shape, which is the actual area you want to mask. So we'll come to that as well. I think I've got an example that shows that one. Okay, so here's our object remover example, and we're going to get rid of this guy here on the left. So In this case, we use the Object Remover plugin, which is named rather obviously. Drop that on. And what we're going to do is use the Bezier shape to go around this guy here. And then we're going to go over here to the parameters and change the X offset and the Y offset so that we're going to clone a piece of water over him and then track his movements. Now, the green area is the area that we're cloning from, and inside the shape is where we're cloning to. So for this to work properly, we need to then track his movements, which it will do even though we can't see him now. Okay, and when I render that and play it back, 1 second, just go through and render this example. Okay, that's gone. And you can use this technique to duplicate people as well. We could have, instead of cloning, instead of getting rid of him, we could have put an extra person in there. Anywhere you've got a good repeated surface, grass or wall, for example, you can cover up unwanted signs, get rid of rigging. It's really a very useful plugin with a lot of different potential uses. So I'll actually just go through a couple more quick examples and then stop for questions, I think, just to keep the flow going a bit. So let's just go on to, these are the last two separate plugins, and then we'll show some techniques using combining different layers. So we already saw with this girl changing the color of her lips. We could quickly do a pixelization instead using Pixelate Shape Mask if we wanted to hide her identity. So 1 second. Okay, so this plugin just basically gets rid of, pixelates the area inside the mask, and we'll just quickly do her whole face there and do a track. Now in this case, because she's turning her head, we need to do a few more keyframes to keep her whole face in there. So I'll just show you quickly 3 keyframes and you can cover this. So we've got one at the start already. You can see that's yellow. And then we'll move to the middle. Just quickly drag out. And if you're doing a lot of this, I do highly recommend buy yourself a Wacom tablet because it just makes it so much quicker than using your mouse for doing this kind of masking. And they're pretty cheap nowadays. You can use a bamboo one, and you don't need to use a expensive one. Okay, and then we go on to the last frame. And again, just drag that out. And it's generally important when you're doing this kind of rotoscoping, do them in order, do the shapes in order, and try and do as few shapes as possible. So analyze your clip first, look for the extremes of movement, and you generally get a better result with less keyframes. Okay, so that's just a bit too far out on the turn there. I just need to add one more in. Oops, I accidentally moved the whole shape, so you can just undo that. Okay, and 1 second. Okay, drag that in. And we've got something pretty good for the whole. Okay, I'd have to do a little bit more there, but we'll move on for now. And render that, and then we'll play it back quickly. You can change the pixel scale and mess around with parameters there. Shape softness as well, the edges of that. All the masks have got shape softness built in as well. So you've just got one parameter for your edge softness there. And the last example, before we go on to some more complex ones involving multiple layers, is just this skin fix. So again, what you can do is you can use this plugin to smooth out blemishes on skin within the masked area. And 1 second. So in this case, this area here needs fixing up. So we just draw around the area. And this plugin, it works by actually keying the skin color. So we need to put in, click on the skin color there, click onto the little magnifying glass here to pick the color from the clip, and then choose the area, the skin color we want. And you've got a lot of parameters with this one, so it helps to play with it a bit. You can either choose to smooth out the large areas, sorry, the lighter areas, or you can smooth out the darker areas. And in this case, we want to smooth out the blemishes in the dark areas. So we would reverse this low threshold and high threshold. I'll just go ahead and change that and play with the diffuse width as well and the diffuse mix until you get something that you're happy with. So it's a bit more subtle. You can see the effect if I toggle it on and off, what it's doing there. And once you're happy with the look you got, then you just track it as normal. So let's go through. And while that's tracking, have we got any questions now, Ross?
Sure. Okay. Hopefully everyone can hear me, and I've been trying to handle a lot of the questions via text, but a couple that came up. Someone was asking, basically, is it more efficient to key the first frame and last frame when tracking something like a face and then add additional frames as needed? Or is it better to begin tracking from the first frame and correct as the mask goes off track? And I think I could actually answer that. I mean, basically, if you've never seen any of the videos that show Mocha's planar tracker, there's lots of videos on the imagineersystems.com website. Mocha is a planar tracker, and I'm also going to address another question that someone had, which is there? Someone was asking, is there a way to see the point that you're tracking comparable to like the Avid point tracker or the After Effects point tracker? Mocha is a planar tracker, so it's actually tracking all the pixels within the shape that Roger draws. When he draws a shape, it's looking at every single pixel, and it's basically going to find the majority of the pixels that are going in the same motion and follow those pixels and drop pixels that are going in an opposite motion. So it's actually tracking much more data, and because of this, the planar tracker can solve very, very difficult tracks, and it allows SliceX to track things that would be very difficult for a point tracker, like the Avid tracker, for example, to track. If you have if you're tracking someone's face and their eyes blink, for example, that's the type of thing that could easily throw off a point tracker. Whereas SliceX, powered by Mocha, is going to stay locked onto this. It also, in the example that Roger showed earlier, it's a great way that you can track like things that really long pans and things that would be a lot more difficult to set up in a traditional point tracker. So hopefully that's sort of answering a little bit more about how the planar tracker works. My methodology is always trying to find the clearest frame. So say you're tracking someone's face and it's the camera goes from out of focus to focus. I would try to find the clearest frame that represents what you're tracking, maybe the frame that's the most in focus and sort of largest in frame, and track in whichever direction the shot's going. So you don't have to track from on the very first frame. You can go to any frame and either track forwards or backwards.
Yeah, just to show you that in more detail, this is the track backward button, which we haven't actually used so far. So yeah, you can park in the middle, track forwards, track backwards, and go start at any point, depending on wherever you want to set as your reference, where your object is really the most clear, just like Ross said.
A couple more questions, Roger. Background rendering. Someone's asking, must background rendering be turned off?
It doesn't have to be turned off, but I've generally found that background rendering can get in the way. If you're trying to go through in rotoscope and it keeps trying to render, it's going to slow you down. So I generally turn off background rendering and then I just use Control R to render everything as I go. And that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, and just from my experience as someone who's coming from more on the well, not more, because Roger is certainly very experienced, but some visual effects artists or people who are doing a lot of roto and masking, it's definitely there's a lot of test renders and trials and things like that. So I agree. I would probably turn off background rendering myself. Another question. The parameters that you find within SliceX, for example, some of the filters, they all have sliders, and someone just wanted to ask, are those animatable like by keyframe as well?
Yeah, they can all be keyframes. I just like to mention there was a bug we found where some of them were jamming. So if you do have a problem where you try and keyframe them and you can't, then make sure you download the latest version from a website. But yes, all the parameters for shape softness can be keyframed. The color correction values can be keyframed. Again, just make sure you've got a latest update.
So you could animate a blur or something like that.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great.
Yep.
And let's see,
Okay.
one last question. Let's see. Someone was having some problems, technical problems with the MacBook Air, but I think that we should probably address that after the webinar. And what I'll do is I'll get your name and make sure that Roger or someone from CoreMelt support gets in touch with you. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay. All right. So we're going to come to the most useful plugin now because it lets you use these masks with any tool in Final Cut Pro 10. So this example on the timeline, you can see I've got two clips above each other, and I'll just turn off the top one so you can see we've just got these blurred lights behind, and we've got this flower on top here. So what we're going to do is use the plugin Shape Mask Layer on the top layer there, and what Shape Mask Layer does is just cut out the layer and reveals the layer below. So in this case, I'm going to use the freeform tool and draw around the petals here. And you don't have to be precise because I'm going to do a little bit of a soft edge on this for these purposes. Okay, so here we go. Go around. And when I've finished this, what you'll see is that that's now revealing the layer below. Now let me just fix up a couple of these ones that are a bit
Roger, while you're getting
outside.
Your roto head and moving some of those points around, can you multi-select some of these points and move them all at once?
Yeah, we can. We can just drag a box like this, and then we can. Sorry, I need to select a bunch at once, and then drag them out. And you can see I've just dragged a whole bunch at once there. And
Great.
I didn't need to hold down any key while I was drawing that box. Just make sure you start drawing the box not on a point, and you can multi-select as many points as you want that way.
Great.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and track this quickly. It's not a locked off shot of the flower. This is just some sway from the wind. So it's tracking the movement there. So the main thing to realize about the shape mask layer is that you can use the same trick um, if you duplicate a layer over itself, you can then apply any tool you want, and it will be only within the masked area. So, okay, let's just quickly wait for that to finish. Actually, we can hit this button here to stop tracking. By this stage, you don't need to see results of that. That's okay. You get the idea, I hope. So what I'm going to do is take this clip here and duplicate it by holding down the Option key and dragging the clip to attach it on top of itself. So your timeline has top and bottom the same clip. Then I'm going to apply shape mask layer to the top layer on the timeline. And then I'm going to select the area of just the liquid in this bottle here. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. A couple more points. Okay, so now, just so that you understand what's going on here, I'll disable the top layer. Okay, that's the base layer we're seeing now, the whole thing. And then if I disable the bottom layer, you'll see that it's just this area within the mask. Now, I'm just going to clean up that. While I'm looking at that, I'm going to clean up the shape softness, make it tighter. Okay, so now I've got the top layer just for liquid, bottom layer, the whole clip. So once I've set that up, I can go into the color tools, for example, and use the built-in color correction tool, and you'll see it's isolated within the mask area. We can change that and do anything we want to it. So let's make it a little bit more red. And let's apply one of the built-in plugins. So let's go to the light category and put the Dazzle plugin, which is going to make some sparkles flare up on that. Okay, and exit color adjustments and go into my amount and brightness, my threshold, play with that a bit. Okay, and now render that, and we've got both the color correction and the Dazzle plugin limited to just our mask area. Oh, okay, I forgot to track, sorry. Let's go back and actually take care of that. Track the movements. Okay, what's going on there? Okay, I'll just wait a few seconds for that. The screen isn't updating, but it's tracking correctly anyway. So I'll just let it finish, and then we'll be able to play that back.
Roger, do you find that you would probably do their tracking in Roto first and then start getting into filters and things like that?
Generally, yeah. Look, something has gone slightly wrong here, so I'm just going to delete this and reapply it. Okay. Generally, yes, I should have tracked first in that case. It shouldn't make a difference, but I'm just going to apply this and track again. Okay.
It always happens during live demonstrations, of course, that these things happen. It's still a computer, folks. While you're doing that, well, I'll let you, while you're tracking, I'll ask you another question.
Go ahead.
The question was that SliceX, that sort of gradient SliceX bar at the bottom. The question is there a way to actually just hide that overlay?
I'm glad you asked me that. Yes, there is.
See that cool. Even I didn't know that one. Great.
Yeah. But while I'm on this bottom button here, you can click this button here, which will give you the help for SliceX, and pops up a PDF file, which has a list of all the plugins, all the tools, and also the parameters of every plugin, as well as suggested uses for each plugin. And also on there is where we get to our registration for the plugin. So that's how you put in the your license code. But yes, that can be hidden. And I'll just go ahead and render that and play it, and then we'll take some more questions about the shape mask layer plugin. Okay, so that's now got the color correction and the sparkles or the dazzle effect isolated just to the liquid. So,
very nice.
Any questions?
Let's see here. Someone had a question about, let's see, maybe more of a comment, but the contrast, saturation, brightness sliders that are in the color correction mask effect are very, very, very sensitive. And I don't know if there's just a comment or if there's a way to do smaller incremental values there.
Yeah, what you can do, if I go back to that plugin quickly, you can get more sensitivity by dragging the value, the number, instead of for the slider. So unfortunately, there's not a way for us as a developer to directly adjust for sensitivity easily in the plugin. So if you just drag here up and down, you get more sensitive control by dragging the number up and down than using the slider. That's one method. But a couple of people have mentioned this, and we're looking at maybe adding in a couple of extra plugins to the product, which would give you RGB curves and luma curves selected within a mask area. So I guess it'd be nice to get some feedback on that. Would people like to see some new color correction plugins with RGB levels and RGB curves and luma curves in SliceX? Let us know if you'd like to see that. Okay, any other questions, Russ?
I think we're getting caught up on questions at this point. Someone was asking if you're going to show how to track a long pan again. I don't know if that's in, we are recording this. If anyone is getting in here late, just to mention that we are recording the webinar and we should have it online tomorrow. So on YouTube and Vimeo, and I'm sure that we'll be sending links out to everyone. But someone did have a question about tracking long pans.
Yep. What's the specific question?
I think they just missed it and was curious about if you could do that, or if you weren't planning on doing it again. I think we should probably move on, and that person could watch on the video tomorrow.
Okay, no problem. All right, so the next example, I'm going to show you how to use shape mask layer to subtract from a mask. So again, shape mask layer is the Swiss Army knife. You can use it with any plugin, you can use it with the color correction tools, or you can use it to subtract one mask from another mask. So in this example here, we've got our iPad on a rather messy desk, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a depth of field effect onto here and go through and zoom back a bit. 1 second. We're going to draw a new shape to blur out the background there with depth of field. But then what we're going to do is we're going to cut a hole so that the iPad stays in focus. So, okay, this is an example where we can do what I said about tracking a small area and then using the shape with a larger area. So if I track this now, that's going to take quite a long time because it's a big shape area to track, and the movement is the same of the actual iPad. So I can just draw a small mask like this and hit track, and that's going to track relatively quickly throughout the clip. Okay, that's getting the movements right there. Okay, so once I've done that, now I just go back to the first frame, draw a new shape, and you'll notice as soon as I've drawn the shape and I scrub through, it's keeping the same movement. I didn't need to retrack anything. So that trick can save you a lot of time. Basically, always look for a smaller shape to track if you can, and then redraw your shape to what you actually want to mask. Okay, so now that I've got the background masked out, we want to bring back, as in protect, the iPad. So I'm going to duplicate it, get rid of depth of field on the top layer, and then add in instead shape mask layer on the top layer. Okay, and just click and track the whole iPad. Now, unfortunately, you do have to track again when you're doing the same, when you're using multiple layers like this, but at least it's pretty quick. So I'm just going to track that. So our bottom layer is the video clip with the depth of field applied on the background, and our top layer is the video clip with shape mask layer bringing back the iPad. And effectively what that's doing is cutting a hole in the bottom effect. So as soon as it's finished, I'll show you the top and bottom layers so you can see what's going on here. Okay, just wait for that to track. Okay, and let's go to disable. So I'll just go back to full screen and disable the top layer. And you can see we've got the depth of field across the whole thing. And disable the bottom layer. We've got just the iPad. And I'll just change the shape softness a bit, bring that in, and turn both layers on. And you've got the iPad brought back into focus over the depth of field effect. So essentially, that's how you cut out shapes in masks using that technique. And instead, if I'd wanted to add a different effect, like a color correction tool, on the screen, for example, I could add another shape mask layer, and instead of using shape mask layer, I could just use color correct shape mask for just the screen, and then I'm adding a new mask. So depending on what you're doing, you can use shape mask layer to subtract from below, or you can add new effects. We'll go to the top one here, get rid of shape mask layer. Okay, and color correct the screen. Sorry, in this example, we would need, yeah, okay, I've made a mistake. I would need shape mask layer on the top layer as well to bring back the bottom effect. Okay. We'll just go through and isolate the screen. Okay, and then I'll use the built-in color tools, and we'll go to the exposure and increase the contrast of the screen by dragging down the darks, dragging up the highs. That's a bit too much. And decrease the saturation, for example. Okay, so in that case, now on our stack, so I can show you what we're doing, compositing, we've got, turn off both the bottom layers. Okay. Okay, so our top layer is just the screen with the color correction applied using shape mask layer. underneath that, so that's top layer. Underneath that, we've put the whole iPad, which is just bringing back the original clip. So turn that back on. And then underneath that, the background with the depth of field. And you can keep going, stacking that up as much as you want to, adding and subtracting as many masks as you want to. So, anyone got any questions at this stage?
No, I think that's a great example at this point that sort of answers some of the questions that people have had in different ways of stacking up multiple layers, duplicating a clip, and stacking up multiple layers to mask in or mask various select parts. I would also mention that Mocha is extremely powerful for tracking screen, iPads and phones and things that can be very difficult to track. A really common thing that we see is reflections on the screen will throw off a track. So there's lots of great ways that you can basically track only the edges. So if that iPad was actually a TV and there's a moving video, you definitely wouldn't want to draw a shape around the entire thing. You'd want to just draw a shape and track just the edges so that the reflections or the moving video wouldn't throw off the track. But no, that's definitely a good example. And someone actually asked Roger, say you're stacking up something like this, right, with 3 or 4 different effects. Personally, would you recommend rendering, sort of, personally, I don't know the term in Final Cut, but rendering down any of your layers as you move through the comp?
Yeah, I'm not sure that Final Cut actually lets you render the layers below. It only has one sort of render control. So when I click render, it's going to render all 3 of those stacked layers. But as you can see, that's rendering it now, and it's pretty quick.
Yeah,
It's
so
not.
I suppose that could become a clip itself, right?
You can then make it a compound clip,
Right.
and then you can put other effects on top of the compound clip. But one thing I do want to suggest to people is that um, SliceX can help you do quick compositing tasks, but the problem is that Final Cut Pro was just never designed to be a really full-featured compositing tool. And if you're getting more than about 5 layers of stacking masks, I'd probably look at doing it in another program because it just starts to the interface isn't really designed for it, and there's only so much we can do to get around that. So
Sure,
really,
sure.
really, this is for quick fix-ups with 1 or 2 masks, is where it can save you a lot of time without having to jump into After Effects or Mocha Pro or any other package. Um, but at some point, you're probably better off doing it that way.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions we got there?
Let's see here. Does SliceX work in Motion 5?
No, it doesn't. The reason why is because there is masks, Bezier masks already built into Motion 5, and we've concentrated just on Final Cut.
Okay. And then someone had a question which I could answer, which is, can you get a shape to change over a track without adding keyframes? For example, if someone's walking and their leg bends. Well, really, Mocha, it's a planar tracker, and a leg bending is going to represent 2 different planes at least. So an object that you're tracking that is rigid, for example, like the iPad or the shape of someone's head, you can often track and not have to manually do that much keyframing. But if you get into an organic shape like someone's body, where across a clip there's the actual object itself is changing, that is definitely something that you do have to do with manual keyframing. And it's, when you get into really complex rotoscoping, as Roger was just talking about, it might be worth looking into some other product that has the ability to maybe do 20 or 50 layers of masking. And that's something that a roto artist, if you're rotoing out someone, will often break up a person into multiple every limb would be its own mask channel. But I don't want to take any of the light away from SliceX, which is what we're featuring here today. So at this point, well, I think we have really just about 3 minutes left, Roger. So let's try to wrap it up with one last example.
Well, that was actually the last
Okay.
example, but what I'll do What I'll do is I'll quickly show you on the CoreMelt website where we get the products from, and to mention that there is a free 15-day trial with no watermark, which lets you try this out on your own clips. And after the 15 days, the plugin is still fully functional. You just get the watermark on your output. So it's coremelt.com up here, and then just go to products, SliceX powered by Mocha, and you can download or buy the product right there. And is there anything else? I think let's just wrap up with any more questions. I'm happy to keep taking questions if there's any more for a few more minutes.
Someone had a question. Did you discuss globals function?
Can they be more specific? I'm not sure what they mean by the globals function.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're talking about either. Someone asked also, do you think you're going to be doing more with the object remove plugin in the future? For example, being able to duplicate an area from another clip? Is that or is that a limitation that's probably from found within Final Cut?
No, that's something we could do. That's an interesting idea. I'll have to think about that one. It's definitely it's possible. So
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
Just quick compositor's tip, that kind of idea. If you're trying to clone from a clip, a different clip, you could always do it by stacking up two layers and then offsetting one of the layers. So sort of do what Roger already showed with with just a simple mask, and then the fill would be a different clip that you offset in time. So there's
Well,
certainly manual ways to attack some of these features as well.
I'm just sorry. I just thought about it for a second, and of course, you can just use shape mask layer to mask any clip over any other clip. So I'm not seeing how that would be different than object remover. If the person that asked that question has got to tell me
Right.
why it's not possible already with shape mask layer, so you can just cut out like we did with the flower. You can cut out any clip and put it over any other clip as we've done in this example.
Right.
So that should do what you want already,
Exactly. And create your
unless I'm missing something.
No, I think that's really it. And you can create your own clone offset just by offsetting, the fill.
Correct.
So
You could
yeah,
duplicate, for example, if you want to clone the same clip but with a time offset, you can just duplicate it, duplicate the clip using the Option key, and then slide it backwards, trim it differently, and then use shape mask layer, and then you can clone from say 5 frames forward in the same clip by using that technique.
exactly. That's what I was probably trying to say, but not as simply and eloquent as you just did. Um, okay, back to that globals question, and we're going to have to wrap it up quickly. But the globals function, there's a button next to registration labeled globals. That button right there.
Oh, okay. Basically, that button is from an old version of our plugins. It doesn't actually do anything useful in the current version.
Okay, good to know.
One thing I didn't cover quickly, there is a options button here, tracking options button, that just lets you select the translate, scale, rotate, or perspective for tracking and the tracking quality. But for Final Cut Pro users, the sort of things you're likely to do, we found that the defaults are pretty much always what you need. But if you do get a problem tracking, you can go in and you can raise the tracking quality, which of course makes it slower. And you can change translate or perspective as your tracking mode.
Okay, perfect. Last thing, Roger, do you mind going to the Apple and showing your iMac specs so we can get back to that question about how fast your computer is?
Okay, it's a 3.4 gigahertz i7, 8 gigabytes of RAM on there, and the graphics card in it is the NVIDIA GTX 680.
Okay, excellent. Well, at this point, I think we are running out of time. Just to quickly wrap up, I'm Ross Shane from Imagineer Systems. We are the company that makes Mocha, which is an Academy Award winning motion tracking and roto and visual effects tool. And we partner with CoreMelt, who is a plugin manufacturer that makes other great products beyond SliceX. This webinar was featured on SliceX powered by Mocha, which is a sort of joint effort product that CoreMelt has licensed the planar tracker from Mocha and incorporates it in their masking plugin from Final Cut. So, Roger, you have anything else to add here?
No, thanks very much for listening. Of course, if you do have any technical problems, please do email us at support@coremelt.com, and we do reply to every email as quickly as we can.
Okay, that's it. Signing off for now, and we will send everyone an email with the link to the recording, as well as we will notify whoever won the special prize as well. So that's it for us. Thanks for joining.
Okay, thank you very much.